What is up, everybody? What's up? Good to be back for another BizBuzz Live. Again, I'm your host, Chris Muzan. Today, we're going to be talking about something that might be a little touchy. I don't know. My opinion on it might be a little touchy. I'm not sure. But I got a comment about joining a union. And so there's no better place to have the conversation than here on BizBuzz Live. So stay close if you want to talk about what it's like to be a union worker or what my thoughts are on unions in general. Stick around. All right, y'all, we're back to another BizBuzz Live. Again, I'm your host, Chris Muzan. We're dropping every Friday, having the conversation around industry, having the conversation around what are you doing to make more money? Again, as a financial coach, as a financial professional, always sit down with people, have the conversation around all the things: investment, savings, debt, insurance, estate plans, all of it, right? And it always comes back to, inevitably, comes back to cash flow. How are you making money? People are not doing great out here when it comes to earning more money. Have a bunch of things on my TikTok or my Instagram just talking about people that are saying, hey, I can't make it. Like, I got 2-3 jobs. I still live paycheck to paycheck. I'm $40,000 in debt. I'm, $5,000 in debt. I always have these things pop up and I can't seem to get ahead. I can't save all that I want to. I keep dipping into my savings. A lot of these issues that we have are just cash flow issues. They're just, all right, what's coming in and what's going out? A lot of times more is going out than coming in, right? We like to say in the financial space, there's more month at the end of your money, right? There's more month at the end of your money. So how do we get this to not happen? How do we get ourselves to not feel this way? How do we get ourselves to get on the right side of that where we have more money at the end of our month? Well, it's all cash flow. It's all, what are you doing to bring in the money? And so this show really, again, is just for us to talk about how are we making money, whether it's talking about the pros and cons of certain industries, whether we're talking about the pros and cons of entrepreneurship, whether we're just giving ideas of what we could do or listening or watching what other people are doing to maybe get an idea of how we can improve our cash flow. But either way, we know that people need a little guidance in this area. We had posted something on our TikTok page, on one of our TikTok pages. By the way, go follow it. Job to Journey is our new TikTok page. Job to Journey, Job to Journeys might have an S on it. I'm not sure, but my face will pop up, so you'll know it's me. But Job to Journey is literally a TikTok page that we started specifically for people looking to go from their job to the entrepreneurial journey. It was a transition for me, as I did it a while back, because it's a completely different mindset, y'all. It's just a different mindset you got to be in to really thrive in the entrepreneurial space. I had a really good mentor of mine say one time, he said, Chris, never take advice from a successful employee, right? Because being a successful employee, knowing how to climb the ladder properly, knowing how to play corporate America politics, knowing how to bite your tongue in certain things and work at a certain pace and not pick up other people's work, and it's a different beast to be really good. And again, many of you listening might be very successful in your corporate jobs, very successful at your job, climbing the ladder, right? Being the manager, getting into an executive role. But when you come over to this entrepreneur side, those skill sets aren't the same. They're actually opposite mindsets. That's why it's really hard to find, and we're here on LinkedIn, right? So maybe we can find it. Someone that is a very successful employee and a very successful entrepreneur at the same time, right? Like they climb their corporate ladder. They're making a few $100,000 a year at their corporate job. And then at the same time, they're building something entrepreneurial that is also bringing them in a few $100,000 a year. It's really, really difficult to find those type of people if they even exist. Why? Because they're two different skill sets. They're two different mindsets. All of it's different. So that's why we started that TikTok page, Jobs to Journey, to talk about the mindsets and the habits and the things that you need to have in order to transition your life. Because as we talk about today's topic, which are unions, always get back to the place of how do we control our own money? And the only way to do that is to learn how to go earn it yourself outside of the confines of a job. That's the way that we learn how to earn money. Otherwise, we're giving our time so they can give us money. It's a difference, right? Learning how to earn money a lot of times is your ability to figure out how to sell, how to market, how money works, how to put things in place for yourself as far as systems that generate you income. Those are skill sets that you have when we go to a job. Again, no knock on people that have jobs. I had a job, I get it, but we got to know what it is, right? You're trading time for money. That's what you're doing. You're trading your time for money. You give up 40 hours of your week, they give you a paycheck. Your performance in the short term doesn't necessarily matter. Your input, your output doesn't necessarily matter. Now, over the time, right? You don't work well at a job, you get fired, of course. But let's say you have a bad 2 weeks. Let's say you're a good employee and then you have a bad 2 weeks. You just go into work hungover or right, not in the mindset. You don't get all the work done. Guess what? They still give you a paycheck. That's why you do it. Not on the entrepreneur side. You don't show up for 2 weeks, it's likely you're not making money for that time. But anyway, let's talk about the topic of the day. Topic of the day is the unions, the union workers. We posted something. This is where I was getting to. We posted something on our Jobs to Journey TikTok where we had a video of a lady that basically said she was working and like 4 days before she was supposed to do something, I forget, like get a raise or something like that, she got fired. She got laid off. Basically had to start back to zero. And I came in with some context and I was just like, security left in another man's hands is not security at all. Again, wise words that I, picked up from people that have mentored me over the years. Security left in another man's hands is not security at all. So if you leave, right, sometimes we think we have a safe, secure job, but your security is left in the hands of your boss, the hands of your company, the hands of someone else. You don't control those things. You just work. So security left in another man's hands is not security at all. If my boss can fire me, I don't have security. All right. We might think we have a stable job, but people get laid off all the time. Saw another video of a lady whose husband is 57 and got laid off. Security left in another man's hands is not security at all. So in the comments of that, somebody said, yeah, right, you're right. Like, don't go to college, but like get a union job. Unions are secure. And I was like, the comment made me think, like, are unions really secure? If I go off of the philosophy of like security left in another man's hands is not security at all, well, union could almost be worse. Now, like I said, I know this might be touchy because people love unions and people love, right, having the conversation about unions. But at the end of the day, a union is just someone that a group of people that control your pay, control your benefits. Now, again, I understand that unions were created as a benefit to workers for labor laws. People were getting paid horribly. People still get paid horribly, right? Like, but before when unions, kind of the origin of them, it was because people had no representation, right? At a job, you might get paid less because you're a woman. You might get paid less because you're less experienced. They might not pay you a working wage. There was so much unfairness in the work world that they were like, hey, we need to get a group of people to like fight for the collective, right? We need people here to fight for the collective of us. Makes sense, right? It does. In theory, lots of things make sense, right? In theory, lots of things make sense. But that made sense. And there's been a period of time in our country where unions were big, right? I believe they still are. Here's some stats on it. It says in 2023, 7 million employees in the public sector belong to unions, right? Compared with 7.4 million workers in the private sector. That's like 14 million people last year belong to some form of a union, whether it's the public sector unions or private sector unions, right? The largest increases were in manufacturing, transportation and warehousing, private education, private healthcare, and social assistance. Those were some of the areas that particularly, had large increases from a union side. And some of those industries may need it. Think of manufacturing, right? Manufacturing industry, you may need a union. You may need someone to be like, hey, there's some stuff happening in these warehouses that's not safe, that's not good. And like people that are running the company, they're not looking at these things. A lot of unions put rules and regulations in place. They put limits so, people don't have to work a certain amount of hours, or so people, can feel protected at work, can feel safe at work. You can go to your union leader to have them fight for you on your behalf. Again, great in theory. But back to the gentleman's comment on our post, is that more secure? Like, if you can't speak for yourself because of the industry you work in, and you have another group of people that like lobby for you, that say, hey, like this is kind of how we're going to fight for the collective. What if they don't fight specifically for your interest? Like, is that more secure to go that direction? Is it more secure to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to kind of fight for my own because I don't really have a voice in this place. So I'm going to rely on this union to negotiate my work, to negotiate my benefits, to negotiate my pay, to negotiate, right, my time off, or the laws, or those things. Well, when security left in another man's hands is not security at all. So if you're leaving it up to the union to be like, hey, the union handles that. Hey, how's your retirement account coming? I don't know. The union handles that. What are your benefits at the job? I don't know. The union handles that, and they really fight for us. And then what happens? We see it on the other side where unions not able to cut through. I don't know. Maybe I'd love it if, a business owner or somebody that was thinking about joining a union. I wonder what those conversations are like. I've never been privy to those conversations of like the union fighting or kind of negotiating with the company, whether it be public sector, private sector. But I'm curious to hear about those conversations and how much the unions are actually pushing and how much the companies are willing to bend. I know this is why unions go on strike. If I remember correctly, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, not sure. Big healthcare unit out in California was going to go on strike. Why do they go on strike? Because the union can't get the companies to budge, to pay more, to meet their demands, whatever the case is. So they were planning on striking. I don't remember if they really did. I think they might have for a day or two or a week. I'm not sure. But again, is this security? Is that how you envisioned your work life? When you were coming into the workforce, when you were looking for what industry you wanted to get into, was that really how you thought of it? Was that like, hey, I need someone to go to battle for me. I'm going to join a union. I'm going to join a union industry, like an industry that has a union, so they can fight for my benefits, so they can fight for my pay, so they can fight for my child's right benefits. Maybe that is, I don't know, sounds good to some people. I'm not sure. Maybe that sounds good to you. Maybe that's something you did always think about. Maybe that's been in your family. Maybe your whole family has been in union, so that's all you know. Maybe you just don't know any different. Stats here say that workers age 45 to 54 have the highest union membership rate. So maybe that's you and you're listening, you're 52, like you don't have the energy to fight for your own, healthcare and all the stuff that the union might offer. 45 to 54, maybe you're just like, I prefer someone else to go to bat for me. Maybe you like striking. You're like, hey, I really don't want to work anyway. So, but if you're not in that group, you're not really thinking about it in that same way. What are the benefits for you for joining a union? For me, I need to have the voice. I need to have the negotiating power. I need to have the control. If I think the work environment is unsafe, then I'll leave and I'll go do something different. But putting my security in another man's hands to fight for me and my family is just not how I think of it. It's not how I think of it. I believe that if we're going to, again, back to the thesis of the conversation, we're going to go out and improve our financial life, improve our cash flow, bring in more money, keep more of the money that we're making, but bring in more money. We have to have the ability to go fight for ourselves. We got to go fight for ourselves. We got to go fend for ourselves. What's good for one is not good for all. And when you go into a union, that's more of the way that it's thought about. If it's good for one, it's good for everybody. We're fighting for everybody. But think about it. Everyone's needs are not the same. Everyone's problems are not the same. Everyone's challenges are not the same. Everyone doesn't need the same pay or the same work. Like, there comes a point in time where I believe you should be able to say, hey, I need to fight for myself. Right? I need to fend for myself. And again, some of these industries that we looked at, like I said, manufacturing, transportation, warehousing, if you're in those, it might just make sense, right? Construction, I think, is another one. I think construction has some form of a union. I think I saw something also that said like there's like an elevator union or something. I don't know. There's lots of different unions out there. But again, the question is this more secure than just having a job for yourself that like you don't have a backing, that you don't have someone fighting for you or negotiating for you? I would say it maybe is a step. I don't know. I don't even know where I stand on it. Like, I mean, you kind of hear what I'm saying about it, but like, in all honesty, not trying to offend people that work for a union or have union ties, because I'm sure people have great stories of what the union has done for them. But for a younger generation to like seek out, like, because my dad and my grandpop and my grandma like were in a union and the union treated them well, I don't know that the unions are going to continue to treat people well if you don't have the ability to speak up for yourself, if you don't have the ability to use your talents, your skills, and right, your ability to communicate to get the things that you need for you and your family. I think it's not secure. It's just like having a job, but at least at a job without a union, like you can like fight for yourself. Your boss might not listen, your company might not listen, but again, you have the ability to leave. With a union, there's not a lot. Like, you pay union dues. There's certain things where it's like, I have to put into this. Like, whether I agree with it or not, because I have a union, I have to put money here. Well, again, that takes away that freedom. That takes away some of those freedoms. Robert Kiyosaki has an audio talking about like freedom versus security, right? Basically, and which way people lean. But always remember, right, when they offer you benefits is the opposite of freedom, right? Benefits, because a lot of people say these things. And again, it's why we created the page, Jobs to Journey, so we can understand that there's some differences out here, right? But freedom, right, is you being free to be in this free enterprise system, to be able to market the way you want to, sell the way you want to, get into any company you want to, grow a skill set, make as much money as you want. Like, that's, but when we look for benefits, many people at a job, just in the language, are like, oh, they give me good benefits. Anytime someone tells me that, that is the opposite of freedom. So we can either choose freedom or benefits. Most people choose the benefits side. Entrepreneurs choose the freedom side. It's a fundamental mindset difference between the two. So when we go down this path of unionization, is that more freedom? Is that more benefit? More benefit, right? You get benefits with the union. Like I said, some of them can be good, some of them not. But that's a benefit. It's not more secure, because security left in another man's hands, it's not security at all. So how do we get secure? On ourselves. Bet on you. If you don't bet on yourself for your own family security, and you've bet on a job to secure your family, you don't have security. You have to bet on you, your talents, your skills, your ability to communicate, your ability to build a network, your ability to find the best opportunities that are out, put your family in the best position. Security is internal. It's like how you can feel secure. I know that I'm secure because I have the ability to move my business, to move our business one way or the other. It's not always that there's a benefit coming in consistently or benefits coming in consistently, but the future benefit is freedom. It's the ability to live life the way that I want to. So it's a little difference. Again, I have an entrepreneur mind, so I'm coming to you guys more from an entrepreneurial thought process when we look at this position of unions and really what is true security in a job, and how are unions more secure than non-union workers. Again, I can understand there's benefits that the union might take care of, but there's also some restrictions, and what's good for one isn't good for all, but it's looked at up as that. But again, maybe there's no one size fits all model. Maybe unions are a great thing for certain industries that I'm not aware of. I'd love to hear, right, your comments on it. Drop some comments in here if you are part of a union, or if you've ever worked for a union, or maybe if you're a union leader, maybe you could educate me on some things that like I don't understand as far as why unions are beneficial in 2024. I can understand why they were beneficial in 1980, 1985, 1990, maybe, I don't know. They were beneficial because, again, there weren't the same labor laws, working laws. People were just working and getting taken advantage of. I don't know how that looks in the 2024, 2025 setting, and how much actual work are unions doing. Like I said, drop some comments. Maybe you're on the other side. Maybe you're in the private sector and you've been approached by unions, and your company is big enough and you're thinking about joining a union. Well, what are the pros and cons? What are they saying to you? What's your benefit as a business owner, as the one that runs the company, as the board that runs the company? What's your benefit to having a union? I actually, now I'm very curious. Like I really want somebody to drop some comments in here. If you have been on either side of the union, whether it be you work for a union, what are the benefits? Whether you're a union leader and you've like fought for benefits and fought with companies, or whether you're in the private or public sector and you've been approached by unions, or you're in active negotiation with a union. I know this is something politically that people run on, right? That, we're keeping the unions, and, unions are a good thing for the workforce. Again, maybe there's some industries that there are, maybe there's some industries that there aren't. Big question is it more secure? Is it better? We got to think about it. Why? Because again, we're trying to build a life where our cash flow continues to grow. If the union determines how you make your money, if they determine how often you get a raise, if they determine how much comes out of your paycheck for union dues or for healthcare, for whatever it is, if they're controlling that, then how do you control your money? Now we have to step outside of the union. We have the union job, and now we got to step outside the union and say, okay, well, now I got to create a business, use my skill set somewhere else, grow somewhere else. But if we already got to do that, then how is it more secure? Again, I'm open to hearing. I'm open to talking. I love having the conversation. I know I jump on here. You guys hear me talk a bunch, but I love to have the conversation with you. I love to kind of go back and forth and say, hey, like kind of pros, cons. How do you think about it? I can tell you how I think about it. It's always just good to have the conversation, right? So that's why we do this every Friday, BizBuzz Live. That's why we jump in and talk about the topics that are going to help you grow your cash flow, help you figure out a different way to earn income. I know many people just want to take the little bit of income they have and try to invest it and think that that's going to go passively. It's not normally the way it happens. You probably, if you're listening to me, probably don't have as much money as you need to build some form of passive investment that actively, right, brings you in and generates you money. Some of you might, right? Not putting that past you if you've done well, right? But many people aren't. Just in our experience, sitting down with people, many people don't have the liquid capital to be able to just invest it so their money can make them money. That's the goal. That's the goal. But first, you got to learn how to earn it. You got to learn how to bring it in. You got to learn how to get the money to come to you. So we got to have the conversations about what's good, what's not good, pros and cons, industries, entrepreneur mindset versus employee mindset, all with the intent and the hope that it plants a seed that helps you now figure out, how do I make more money? How do I bring in more income? Because for many people, if you're struggling and living paycheck to paycheck, that's probably your answer. You probably have some spending issues, sure, right? Or maybe some vision issues. We can talk about that on another episode, right? Of like why people feel like they have spending problems. A lot of times it's just because they have a vision problem. They don't know what they really want to use money for. So they spend it for what they feel like they want to spend it on right now. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out, how do I bring in more? That's why we do BizBuzz Live. It's so that we can start having the conversations about how are we bringing in more income, whether you get a second job, third job, whether you start a business, whatever it is, whether you're in a union, not in a union. This is meant for us to start the conversations about how to go out and make more money. All right. Every Friday, share with a friend. LinkedIn, YouTube, we're live. You can catch the replay on both of these anyway. But feel free, please drop a comment. If you're watching this on the replay, drop a comment. If you're in a union, if you're a union leader, if you're a business that has negotiated with a union or has brought on a union, what has been your experience? What are the pros? What are the cons? I'd love to be educated. I'd love to have the conversation with you. But until next time, stay good, people. Make sure that you are focusing on your income, bringing in more money. If you ever have questions financially, feel free to reach out. More than happy to do it. We're coming back next Friday with another BizBuzz Live. Take care, y'all.